Will you need long-term care insurance? Hey folks, welcome back and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Retirement Roadmap with MasterPlan Retirement Consultants. My name is Evan and with me as always, retirement planner Mark Fricks. During the show, we're going to break down a few long-term care myths and discuss ideas of how to add long-term care protection to your holistic retirement plan. Mark, more and more long-term care strategies are crucial for a complete retirement plan.
Yeah, when we do our complimentary consultations, we run 6 or 8 different reports. One of the ones we run is the long-term care report. What happens if that hits and we just pick an age, maybe in the 70s or early 80s or whatever, and literally the money disappears like 3, 5, 7 years in most cases.
It's the most devastating of the reports for anyone.
Yep, it is the nuclear button of retirement, and so people can either just ignore it, which a lot of people do. They're just like, hey, my family will take care of me. We know the reality of that is very small. Very difficult to take care of folks at home, especially if they're bigger people, like the male of the family, or even just me picking up somebody that weighs 125 pounds. It's going to damage me too. So this home care without any help is I wouldn't say a myth, but very difficult. So how do you deal with it?
Well, first of all, long-term care is often misunderstood. It's not just nursing homes, but it's a full spectrum of services. Right. So here's the problem. About 1.2 million Americans reside in nursing homes, but many people first use homemaker services, home health aides, adult daycare, or assisted living.
Yeah, kind of working their way up to the nursing home. The last place you want to be is a nursing home. It's the last stage of care. I can remember as a kid going there and visiting my grandmother and things like that, and it being just I don't know how to put this, but just a sad place to be. Nobody wants to be there. But that is the last step of the road, if I were to make it that far even. Like you said before, you kind of take those stages, which some of those stages can actually be more expensive than some of the other stages, like home health. If it's full-time or three-quarter time, it's very expensive.
And just as you said, it's almost a tiered system. You start with in-home care, and progressively work your way up, and to the nursing home. Each of those is its own unique cost, and who knows? We weren't going to get into this aspect so much today, but there's even renovations to homes and remodeling, so you can age in place when maybe you've lost some
almost like a group home or something
or even
like that.
Yeah, of course. And we've seen that as well, and that's just more that you have to make sure that you can handle in your strategy. So here are some numbers of annual costs, and this is from 2025. And this is a nationwide average as well. So keep in mind, some areas are going to be more than this.
I know up north, northeast is much more expensive. The southeast is less. West coast is more expensive. Midwest is less. So yeah, definitely an
It's
average.
picking up down here too, though. In the Metro Atlanta area, I mean, we're seeing people come in with some of their, weighing where to put maybe their parents who might need assisted living or something, and the prices don't seem to be getting any more competitive.
They're not going to.
So a couple of averages here. So homemaker services annual cost average is $75,500. Home health aid is $80,000. Adult daycare is $26,000, and assisted living is $74,400. Okay, so those, other than the adult daycare, which is considerably lower, those other three are ranging between the 75 and 80K annually. So what happens when we need to graduate to a nursing home? Well, a semi-private room is about $110,000 to $115,000 per year, and then a private room is $127,000 ish to $130,000 a year.
That's just so much money, and it's, again, we're so unprepared, and we'll talk about the history of long-term care today, what was the old way of dealing with it, what's the new ways, things like that. There are tools that have come out. Financial service companies are always looking for a competitive advantage, so they're going to come out with products that people will be drawn to. But because there are several different things out there now, which one fits you? It could be one works better for you than another. So we'll definitely talk about all those choices today.
Yeah, and some people consider part of their plan relying on Medicaid in the future, and that can be part of your plan for sure, to help cover the costs. But as we know, eligibility requires income and asset limits, often forcing a spend down of your assets before. And we know depleting assets can reduce our legacy opportunities and impact the surviving spouse as well.
That's a big one. And just so people are clear, Medicaid is the state-run program, which is funded by the state with some help from the federal government. So it's for folks that have run out of money. Yeah. Let's put it clearly. And that's fine. And you do have a fewer choice of places to go.
Right.
So that will affect that as well. So that's a plan. And I'll tell some clients that have, much fewer in assets that really can't afford any of the long-term care tools. I say that just may have to be your plan. Yeah. And at least you'll get care. And I'm not saying it's not quality care. It just may not be the nicest place out there, so to speak.
That's a good point as well. Part of the strategy to covering it is making sure that you have the option to choose, because our infrastructure cannot handle the full spectrum of the baby boomers who are all moving into this transitioning into this period of their life, who need long-term care. We simply don't currently have the facilities yet, and even more so, we don't have the manpower to help. We don't have, it takes a very special person to offer that sort of care. And
they don't pay a lot.
And they do not pay a lot, exactly. Right. So it's a big problem. And yes, you can rely on Medicaid. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and that is okay. That you can make that work. However, the better strategy you have, the more options you have to choose from.
Right, and again, it's as we get into this, it's interesting. I look back, and I can remember in the 70s and 80s when my grandmom and grandmother and grandfather were aging and things like that. And so people wonder what happened. Why did long-term care insurance miss the mark? In other words, they're going broke. They're having to raise rates every few years. And so what happened was they did not anticipate us lengthening lives so far. And with longer lives, more and more Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's has appeared, whether it be because of a longer life, whether it be because of environmental issues over the years that have fed that. I don't know. This is not a scientific show, but they're just being flooded, and they are building new facilities. But like you said, you got to find people that want to work in these facilities as well. And I don't know of a facility that's not shorthanded.
Right.
And then can they afford the people they need to hire as well? So then that drives the prices up. It's just this vicious cycle, so to speak.
Well, so here's the myth. You must buy traditional long-term care insurance. You already spoke to a little bit of why that's becoming difficult. One, we know it's gotten incredibly expensive. Two, we know that it gets more expensive. The premiums will get higher every few years.
Like health insurance.
Right, and it's getting harder to get. Fewer and fewer companies are offering it because of how expensive it's become. So let me make something clear. If you have long-term care insurance and can self-insure yourself that way, it can be such a blessing in a time of need. There are people who will swear by it because it helped them in a time where they really needed it. However, we're seeing more and more companies reach out to some of our clients who may have already had it when they came to us, offering to buy them out.
Yeah, here's $50,000, walk away from the policy.
That's a true story, $50,000. You heard the numbers that I mentioned earlier. That wouldn't cover an annual cost of 3 out of 4.
Of any of those except one.
Yeah, right. So,
or they're getting letters, I get a call probably at least once every few weeks saying, again, they bought their policy, the traditional long-term care policy. They bought it before they started going up. They bought it years ago before they came to see us. And they're like, I got another letter this year. And they're saying they're going up 15%, 20%. This is the 4th time that they've done this. Twice I've paid the premium. Twice I've dropped my coverage lower. It's just going to become nothing eventually if they live long enough. And then, do they use it?
Yeah.
When you reach 80, 85, and you just pass away, all those premiums have been paid and just almost a waste. Now, the good ones, especially from like the 70s and 80s, if you bought that long ago, there are some really good ones out there, but they're still going up.
Yeah.
So, the only one that I would have loved to have had would be one that was like what they call a 10-pay. You pay it for 10 years and it's done, can't go up. It's done, and it's like lifelong coverage as long as you're in a nursing home.
Do they offer those anymore?
No. No. Those are long gone. So along with the 57 Chevy, those are gone.
Well, you touched a little bit on perhaps one of the most devastating aspects is if you are paying in for 20 years and it's going up and going up and going up, and then you're in your mid-70s and you can't afford to pay the premium anymore, so you're forced to drop it, and there's all those years of wasted money that is just basically just for nothing.
Yep.
So there's the myth. There's the problem. Traditional long-term care insurance does provide coverage, but it can be expensive, requires ongoing premiums, and offers no return if it's unused. Now for some alternatives.
Yeah, that's all the bad news.
That's the bad news.
You had any good news for me?
I do. Here's some alternatives. Life insurance, believe it or not, with a long-term care rider, allows access to part of the death benefit for care while preserving a potential legacy if unused.
Yeah, we call these a three-legged stool. So basically, very flexible. They're based on a universal life chassis of a life insurance policy. So aspect one is we actually convert IRA money into these policies. We typically do like a 5-year period. We don't want to do it forever. And so we're throwing more money than is even necessary into these policies because they go into the cash value. Some of it pays for the death benefit, but a lot of it goes into the cash value. Cash value looks and smells like a Roth. It grows tax-free, can come out tax-free. So leg one is I could have some tax-free income in the future. Leg two is if I pass away early, I may have a spouse, I may have kids, they get a death benefit that's tax-free, $300,000 or $400,000 or more, or whatever it may be. And so there's a legacy, or there's to help my spouse continue with her or his retirement.
Right.
Leg three, though, is the cool one. Well, they're all cool, by the way. But leg three is that death benefit can be used for long-term care. There's a rider called a critical illness rider. It is, with our companies, no cost to add it. And so basically it says you can use up to 95% of your death benefit for critical need. What is a critical need? A long-term care need, okay? And so you don't pay for it unless you use it. And even then, it's 5 cents on the dollar. It's tax-free. And the restrictions are much lighter. You don't have to turn on receipts every month. The money just comes to you every month automatically to use however you want to use it. So if I've got a niece that's in college that wants to make a little bit of money, she can come over, cook my breakfast, help me get going in the day, get me situated till lunch, maybe clean the house a little bit, pay her $20 an hour, and we're done. As opposed to an agency coming in that's double or triple that. So
well,
much
even
more.
Still, if there's some people who don't have that situation, and this is an opportunity to help pay for those agencies because there is the level of professionalism.
Sure, it's the care.
Of course.
Sure.
So before we move on to the second alternative, I do want to point you to our website, MasterPlanRetire.com. There you can schedule your complimentary consultations. That's an opportunity to discuss your own retirement, your hopes, your dreams, your fears, your goals. And we will run a series of reports. As Mark mentioned earlier, we do have that long-term care report. But basically, we see how your retirement outcome looks right now with no planning, and then we discuss what it would look like to develop your retirement plan. So check that out, MasterPlanRetire.com, or call us at the office, 770-980-9262.
Lots of resources in that website. By the way, rated the #1 retirement website in the world based on my father.
By everyone in this office.
That's right.
Well, maybe not everyone in this office.
Hopefully everyone in this office.
Another alternative is annuities with long-term care riders, similar to the rider we mentioned on the long-term care or on the life insurance policy. But these long-term care riders can integrate income planning with care benefits, and they may pass the remaining values to your beneficiaries.
Right. So basically, as to get down to the elementary aspects of this, an annuity is something that you put some money in so that one day you get a guaranteed income stream, like Social Security. Social Security is the world's biggest annuity. So if you need additional guaranteed income, it's a great way to get that. But by adding this rider, and it's not expensive, it's maybe 1% or whatever per year of the value of the annuity. And so you're paying this small price to get a guaranteed income, but if you have a long-term care need, that income can up to double. And I even have one company that will triple your benefit or your income if you have a long-term care need. And so now you're not losing anything, you're gaining more if you have a long-term care need. Will it cover everything? Depends on how large the annuity is. But certainly between that and Social Security and your assets, it can make a big dent in the cost of long-term care for you.
Well, that's a great point, too. These are not one-tool answers either.
Typically.
I mean, for some people, they may be. And which would be fantastic. But a lot of times they have to coincide with multiple tools, and even something as simple as a long-term portfolio in the market that we can beat inflation, beat some taxes, beat all that kind of good stuff, and that'll be an extra buffer. Well, this bucket is for 15 years, 20 years down the road. We're not touching that till then. So everything has to work together, and these are just some options. These are not recommendations for you because we don't know you. However, these are some options that we definitely employ.
Well, and what I
with our
love about
clients.
these options is that they have more than one function. So it's not like if you don't use it, you lose it. So if you've got this guaranteed income, if you never use the long-term care rider, you still have guaranteed income for life. And like you said, anything left over can go to your heirs. And so you don't waste any penny of it, plus the growth. So it's a great tool. Make sure, again, you have a fiduciary pointing you in the right direction. Make sure it's the proper company. Make sure it's A-rated or better. I mean, there's lots of things concerning this. It's not just, hey, I'm going to snatch an annuity out of the air. So make it part of your overall plan.
We say this a lot. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. All right, long-term care planning should align with your income needs, risk tolerance, your legacy goals. Roughly 70% of Americans turning 65 will require some form of long-term care services. Even if one spouse never needs care, the other might. Long-term care planning is household planning because we have also seen the first spouse need long-term care and drain the resources. And then the remaining spouse is not only not left with long-term care services, but maybe nothing left, and all of a sudden they maybe just have one Social Security left and that's it.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not an uncommon situation.
Yeah, because of course a spouse passes away, the remaining person is left with one Social Security payment, right? And whatever other assets have not been drained down. So that's the devastating double whammy. You have, you have a husband or wife that spends 6 or 8 years going through the process of the various levels that we talked about earlier of care. Drain this down by $4, $5, $6, $7, $800,000, and then you have a spouse remaining that may have another 20 years of life. They're already 75. Do they want to go back to work? They don't want to, may have to. And so again, we want to look at these what-if scenarios. If this happens, we've got this tool and this tool. If that happens, these other, whatever it may be, right? And so that's why when we run the reports, those 7 or 8 reports, it illuminates those holes in people's plans so we can pick the proper tool to plug that gap.
That's right. And a few more statistics as well. So an average healthy 65-year-old couple has a 75% chance that at least one partner will require significant long-term care during their lifetime. This is according to HealthView Services research. There's also a 25% probability that both partners will need care. While 70%, as I mentioned, 70% of people over 65 will need care. One thing that we do find is having a spouse often delays the need for paid services. Oftentimes you see one spouse taking care of the other for a while before they need to call in more professional help, higher medical
But
resources.
once that other spouse the first spouse passes away, now you've got probably a greater need of long-term care for that remaining one because who's at home to take care of them? Right. I certainly don't, want my kids having to drop their lives to come take care of me. I'm sure they would, but don't want that, of course. So again, having a plan and not just, just ignoring it. It's not going to go away. Hopefully, you're blessed and you don't need that kind of care.
Well, we've talked about the financial strain, of course. The expenses can significantly impact your retirement savings, create financial strain, but we don't often talk about the emotional strain of families. And yes, maybe you will have someone in your family who has the time to take care of you and is willing and wants to do that, but that is a huge burden, physically, emotionally, mentally. We have a client who has been taking care of her father, and she loves him, and she insists on doing it. But she speaks of the toll and how she has no time for herself, and it's a difficult season. Although she's got the kind of heart that she just wants to be there with him. But we have to keep that in mind too. The strategies in place give you an opportunity to not only save your financial strain, your financial side of your plan, but also your emotional and family, tight-knitness, and making sure that everyone is able to enjoy those years with someone who might be in need.
Well, there are studies that show that a caretaker, their lives and health is shortened. Yeah, in most cases,
that's a great point.
If they do have to spend a lot of time taking care of a loved one, again, they love that person, they want to take care of them, but at the same time, it is draining, and it can really affect the rest of that person's life as well. And It's not, and we see it. I mean, we see clients come in and we can see the change in them. They had to get a sitter to sit with their spouse while they could come in and meet with us and catch up on finances, and we can see the strain on them and how they've aged more than you would have thought. Not in every case, but we have seen that.
Yeah, so just like retirement planning, planning early expands your options for long-term care. Yeah. It increases flexibility, helps protect financial stability, and again, family peace of mind. But we know the sooner you start planning, we'll tell this to everybody. We've had people come in, hey, I retired last week, can you help me? We've had people come in, I'm not retiring for 20 years, can you help me? I mean, I've been retired for 10 years, can you help me? And we'll help everybody, but it's always the case. The more time you have, the more preparation, the more those accounts can get ready and prepare for your need. And so we see that in long-term care planning as well. It has to coincide with the rest of your retirement plan. It is holistic for a reason. It is comprehensive for a reason, because that income, that estate and legacy planning, that long-term care planning, all of those things do work together, and they must, frankly. They must.
And I think a great way to put it, I think, is you want to plan for the need of long-term care, but also plan that you may not need long-term care.
You're right.
So how do you maximize both of those areas? And there is a way to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the tools we're using. We even have another tool that is also more of a life insurance base, but I actually have a client right now that's purchasing it, and they're doing a one-time payment. He got an inheritance, $200,000, and they're going to put $200,000 one time into this tool, never pay again, and it will cover both of them. Mm-hmm. Now, it's shared services, so if one uses it all up, there's nothing left for the other one, but at least that $300,000 or $400,000 that went toward long-term care stopped the other assets from draining.
It's a piece of the pie.
So it saved some of their assets as well. But in this case, again, if one needs a little bit of care, there's still plenty left for the other one, and vice versa. So it's a really cool tool. We just started using that one more lately, depending again on the circumstances. And that one you can pay over 10 years, you can pay over 5 years, you can whatever. So it's not just a one time you've got to put something in. But that way, again, you know you're done with it, and it's not going to go up.
Yeah.
So I love this new tool we found in the last year or so. We're beginning to use that much more.
Yeah, and not trying to get down the rabbit hole of product talk and everything else like that. But again, they are tools to use in retirement planning. 99% of the time, the first thing that we have to take care of is income. Is our income plan in place? Right. And so oftentimes we'll be employing other tools to help alleviate some of the income need, to fill some of that income gap. There are, like we mentioned, some of those annuities out there. There's one I really love right now that if you have a long-term care need or a critical illness, which I think on that one is if you are missing 3 of the 5 activities.
I think it's 2 of the ADLs.
Excuse me, I meant 2.
Yep.
2 of the 5
or
activities
mental
of daily
capacity.
Living. Right,
yep.
Right. And typically just a doctor's note. But basically, your income, once it's turned on, coming from that product, you turn it on, it can double for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of those 5 years, it just goes back down to where it was. Yeah. That's not a one-tool solution, but think about when you've got your whole comprehensive plan, you've already got this tool filling out your income need, and then you also have a future supplement to assist with long-term care in the future, and that's just one small piece of the pie there.
And again, it depends on your needs, and it depends on your other assets. Maybe you just need one little gap filler, just as for peace of mind, or maybe you need a couple of these tools. Every case is different, as we talk about almost every episode. So it's getting that comprehensive plan together. And as you've said many times, Evan, you make a change here, it's going to change probably 3 other areas. So it all has to work together. And even during retirement, as we continue working with our clients, something changes in their life. It's going to affect several areas. We have to adjust that plan. So it's not set in stone. It is fluid, living, like you said, I think a living document or a living plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, I do want to remind you to check out our website, MasterPlanRetire.com, to schedule your complimentary consultation, or give us a call at the office, 770-980-9262.
Glad you joined us. And until we see each other again, remember, plan well and prosper. Take care, everybody.